underwater cameras by Minolta, film cameras, vintage film cameras. Here first we've got the 110 underwater camera. There's even a dive belt to go with it. It's big and blocky and yellow so you can find it again if you drop it, but it actually floats. And it has, good sealing around it. Now there is a maximum depth you can go underwater, and that might be less than you think, so you better check it out if you're going to actually use it for that. I think a lot of people bought these too just as all-weather cameras. In other words, it's waterproof down to 10 feet or 20 or 30 feet, whatever. You know that being out in the rain is going to be fine. So I think, even though I'm sure people bought them that were going to use them underwater, I think the bigger attraction was the idea of a camera that could work in the rain or somewhere else, sand and whatever, without having issues. Now, we're just going to describe this one a little bit more. Now, the depth of field on the 110 camera, because the film is actually only like this exposed area. There's, I think, 14 by 17 or something like that. It's really small. Okay, it's actually a piece of 16 millimeter film with a frame printed around each place with an indexing hole, and that is used by the camera to line things up. So because the negative is smaller, there's a greater depth of field, so focusing becomes less critical. But here we have a focusing ring. We have, instead of feet, we have little guides on it, and we have mosquitoes. And basically you can see here that it's got like a mountain icon, a group shot icon, and then just a single person, and a close-up setting. And these are all explained in the manual. Now, there's no automatic exposure, so what you're doing is you're setting this control. You've got the option of a flash, overcast, and sunny. So again, you're manually setting this. The camera really isn't detecting anything. Now, the things that's important about underwater cameras is, we're used to the medium of air. Once you put a camera in the medium of water, everything changes. The angle of view changes, the focusing changes. So all of this has to be accounted for. Now this has a table right in it, and of course it's yellow on yellow. So when my eyes were younger, there was no problem. But it gives you the available, talks about using color film, what the distance scales are, what you should be setting it. And like I say, you would keep that in mind whether you were above water or below water. It would be different. And it had an electronic flash. So really, all the batteries that are doing in this, which you have to access by opening the camera up, all it operates is it charges the electronic flash, that's all. And I could see right here that the batteries in this are dead. So I better take them out soon. Batteries left in cameras sometimes can leak, and that leakage can get into the electronics, or maybe just even, disconnect the contacts from the wires that go to whatever it's charging. So that becomes a problem. Now, it is true with some of these older cameras won't work. Put a battery in them, they'll fine, put a and they don't work. Well, one of the first things you check is the condition of those terminals. And even if those terminals are bright and shiny, if they bend in when a battery is put in them, what you can often find is that if you just pull them out, expand them a little bit, each one that you find, and put the batteries in, it will work fine again. Because that's just not that much to it. So here's a 110 version. So they also came out with a much more complicated 35 millimeter version. So here we have the Weathermatic dual 35 for 35 millimeter. We've got on-off. We've got lens select. This actually selects different lenses. So if I turn this on and I press this, it goes from a wider view to a more narrow view. So you have that option. And again, what's being covered underwater is different, so that you want to, again, understand the manual so you can understand what's going on. Most of the things on this camera are just telling you to make sure that you really seal the camera well. There's warnings like that on this one as well, but they want to make sure that you got the camera really closed tightly. You know, there's gaskets, they're all around here, plus, you know, they've got to manufacture the other components so they won't leak in water. But so this has, it autofocuses within a certain range, and what I'm saying by that is, before, or more expensive cameras later would autofocus anywhere. In other words, you point it towards something, it's going to measure the exact distance and set that on the lens. Well, the less expensive cameras would have different chunks of distance that they could use, and that you'd press on the shutter and it would go to that chunk. It wouldn't necessarily, like if say I'm 4 feet away from this camera now, and I was to press this button, it might actually set from, you know, from 2 to 4 feet, or, you know, 3 to 6 feet, or whatever. It would set a certain range rather than tuning in exactly on the area, the exact distance. And usually that was okay, because lenses like these, in cameras like these, tend to be stopped down. And the more you stop down a lens, the more that will be in focus close to far. And now this is 35 millimeter, which is quite a bit bigger. The frame on this is 24 by 36, as opposed to, maybe that was, I have to look this up, I'm surprised I forgot that. But I believe the frame on this was something like 13 by 17 or something like that. But you can see that's quite a bit smaller than a 35 millimeter. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, people go to digital cameras. They seem like everything's in focus a lot of times, because most of the autofocus cameras originally were just a part of this format. They didn't do a whole 24 by 36 area. They did a smaller one, like quarter of it maybe, or something. And then we go into cell phones. My goodness, they're minuscule, the actual area they cover, so you can get a huge range of things in focus at the same time. As a matter of fact, you know, cell phone companies had to come up with software that would blur the background, so you could isolate a subject more, which usually was easier to do with an adjustable 35 millimeter camera. You could pick a combination of shutter speed and aperture that would make things before and after the object blur out a little, and that's how that was obtained. But just kind of a neat little piece of history. I'll put some information in the links below, but I think this one was 1984. I'll have to check and see, and I'll put those in the comments, but just, you know, something kind of cool as I'm going through things. Minolta underwater cameras, or at least all-weather cameras, that produce decent images and did the job. They floated, which is important if you're out fishing and you take a camera with you. I'm sure there have been, you know, you can see from these guys that use the magnets to go fishing with, they just pull up all kinds of old cell phones and things like that, because, you know, people are out there, they're on the canoe or something, you go to take a picture and whoop, down in the water it goes and it sinks. Well, these wouldn't sink. Just another thing about film. It seems, you know, we're only now catching up with the cell phones. I've got the Samsung A52 5G, which is what I'm filming this with now. And this one's, what do I say? I can't say waterproof, but it's water resistant, if I can say that. If you get it in the connectors, it doesn't like that at all, the charging connectors. But the camera itself is more protected against moisture and things like that. You get drops of water on it. With the old cell phones, if you got the cell phone or the electronics, even in a room with real high humidity, it could shut your camera off. I know my in the early days, this is an iPad Mini 2, that I had this sitting in the bathroom when I took a shower, and it wouldn't operate correctly for quite a while afterwards because the moisture was able to get inside of it and mess up the electronics. It eventually dried out, but just a little history. I'll be doing some more short videos like this. I'm going to put in the link below a place you can go to get just about any kind of camera manual you want. It's free, but the guy suggests you give a $3 donation, or maybe it's $4 now. But I've done that because I think the site is really useful. I can get both these manuals from it, or I have gotten both manuals from it. And rather than spending, you know, $15 to $25 for an original manual, if you could even find one. But there we go. Tell me what you think. Film days were fun. Bye.